Hello, all you free-minded thinkers. J.R. Dukes here. Appreciate you joining me. I also want to take a quick moment and thank each and every one of you that has subscribed to my channel. It has been blowing up, and I appreciate that. Today, we're going to talk about something I've been talking about, and that is Donald Trump's trial in New York City. I guess I should say the fraud trial in New York City, the sham trial in New York City, the trial where a democratically elected judge, democratically elected attorney general who ran on a campaign that she was going to get Trump has now succeeded in doing so, because instead of running his campaign and out giving speeches to let everybody know what he will do for us as the next president of the United States, Donald Trump is having to spend his days in court defending against this frivolous lawsuit. But I don't want to get off on too many tangents. I have actually found a story that proves what I've been talking about in previous videos that I've had. Now, just a quick recap. In this particular trial, among other things, this liberal New York Attorney General, you probably have seen her on the news. If you don't know what she looks like this woman right behind my head here. And then, of course, our president is on the other side. She ran on a campaign that she was going to get Trump. And what she has succeeded in doing is bringing him before this judge, a Democratic judge in a Democratic city. And the allegations of fraud are, in part, that he has inflated the value of his properties. And you may be asking, well, why is that fraud? To be honest with you, I've been asking the same question. Why in the world is that fraud? There is no victim in this case. There is nobody in court saying Donald Trump or Donald Trump's companies or Donald Trump's children have ripped me off. There's nobody alleging that. There is no creditor. There is no bank saying, look, the Trump organization failed to pay me or failed to pay me back for a particular loan. None of that. This attorney general is suing our former president with a New York consumer fraud law that was intended for businesses that are dealing with the public at large that actually commit consumer fraud. I'll be making a video very soon outlining why I believe this law in and of itself is absolutely and completely unconstitutional. But that is not the game they're trying to play. They don't care about the fact that in all likelihood the president will prevail on appeal. Their goal is to stop him from becoming the next president of the United States. It is basically a conspiracy between the Democrats, between the local Democrats at the local, state, and federal level, aka the Biden administration. So this is where we're at. This consumer law that she's suing under requires no victim. It also does not allow the president to have a trial by jury. The trial that he is allowed is only in front of this judge. I've done previous videos about this judge and about the odd things that this judge has already done in this particular case. It is just really shocking. But at any rate, this article I want to talk about is from CNN, so you really can't get much more liberal than CNN. I guess you could go to MSNBC if you really wanted to get liberal, but CNN nowadays is pretty liberal. And I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. At any rate, earlier this month, it says, real estate insiders question how Trump fraud judge valued Mar-A-Lago. And this is what I've been talking about also. This particular article says, coming from New York, CNN Business, a New York judge ruled last week that former President Donald Trump inflated the value of his Mar-a-Lago estate by an eye-popping 2,300%. That finding, part of the shocking ruling that found Trump and his adult sons liable for fraud. This judge, before the trial even started, said that Donald Trump and his sons and the Trump organization was guilty of fraud. Prima facie, on its face fraud before the trial even started. I'm continuing. Was just one of the multiple examples in which this judge found Trump real estate empire to have been grossly inflated in value. But the Mar-a-Lago finding in particular is raising eyebrows among real estate and legal experts because of the metric the judge relied on, which was county tax assessors appraised value. I have been talking about this at length in my home state, which I live in, Florida. Every year we get a tax notice, a tax assessment in the mail. The tax assessment is always significantly lower than the actual value of the property. In my estimation and my experience, it's nowhere close to what my property is actually worth. This particular judge used this tax assessor certificate, bill, statement as prima facie proof that he committed fraud. So let's continue on with this here. From 2011 to 2021, the Palm Beach County Assessor appraised the market value of the Mar-A-Lago at between $18 million and $27.6 million, the judge wrote in his ruling. The judge noted Trump valued Mar-A-Lago between $462.5 million and $612 million. And the judge said an overvaluation of at least 2,300% compared to the tax appraisal, the assessor's appraisal that he was looking at. The judge noted Trump's valued Mar-a-Lago between $426.5 million and $612 million, which he said was an over-evaluation of at least 2,300% compared to the assessor's appraisal. But it is widely known that the tax assessor valuation is typically, though not always, less than what the property would command on an open market. I don't know where they're getting that from. I've never seen a assessor's appraisal that was anywhere close than what the property would actually sell for. But I will continue. But it is widely known that the tax assessor's valuation is typically, though not always, less than what the property would command on the open market. In other words, it is not an apples to apples comparison. Appraisal values and market values are not the same thing. It's well-known fact, said this particular chair of the School of Real Estate at Florida International University. She's quoted as saying, that's especially true for properties that are unique. And it's very easy to argue that this is a unique property. Of course, I would agree with that. An executive director of sales at Douglas Elliman School in South Florida said, in her experience in the ultra-luxury marketplace, the tax assessor's valuation isn't considered when trying to value a property. He wouldn't make a very good realtor, this particular person said, concerning the judge. It is so widely known that it is not an accurate determination of market value. This person added, if there is any ranking as to what would have been the lowest valuation, it is the tax assessor's valuation. This is what I have been saying now for some time. It goes on to say, if there is a ranking as to what would have been the lowest valuation, it is the tax assessor's valuation followed by Zillow, and then the realtor's valuation is the highest. That's pretty well what I would agree with too. The assessor's valuation is typically the bottom. Then Zillow and the other online places, so to speak, would be somewhere in the middle, and then the top would be what you could probably actually sell the property for. It is not correct to assume that a tax assessment and market value are the same thing. According to Jonathan Miller, president and CEO of Miller Samuel Incorporated, a real estate appraisal company in New York City. They can be, in some markets, they are the same thing, but in most, they're not. I agree with that, as I just said. It's not the same thing in Florida. The article goes on to say, typically, realtors, buyers, and sellers would try to determine an estimated value on the property by comparing it to similar ones on the market that have sold recently and in that same area. But that may not be possible when dealing with a unique property like Mar-a-Lago, especially one owned by a famous person and that functions as a private club. Mar-a-Lago is such a trophy asset. It is in a completely different league of its own. So that's the meat of this particular article. And this is what I have been saying all along, to show you how nutty this fraud trial is and how unfair this is to our president. This judge is using something that has never been intended to be used to evaluate a particular asset. It is just prima facie proof on its face that this case is tainted and it stinks and it's unfair. And we should all be outraged about this. This attorney general ran on a platform that she was going to get Trump. She was using profane language. She was saying, if you elect me, I'll get that SOB. And she was throwing the F-bomb around. It is unbelievably upsetting. And we should not tolerate this as Americans. I'm always talking about the law and about our court system. And although it does have good things about it, it is far from perfect. And I never thought I'd live to see the day where a president, a former president of the United States, has its own defense, its own its own executive branch on the state and federal level is poised and activated to go after him with everything they got to hammer Trump, to get Trump. It is obscene. At any rate, I want you to know exactly what's going on. If you agree or disagree, please put them in the comments below. I always appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. I definitely appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe. I want you to always remember, my friends, to keep that free mind and never give up. Until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.